What's going on, guys? Bergs and Longy here from The Casual Athlete, coming to you from our brand new studio, and we're here to talk about the Pacific Nations Championships. So, as you may have heard, Longy, over the last couple of weeks, the NRL have announced a Pacific Championships for the end of the season, starting on October 14th.
Man, I couldn't be more excited. I'm looking at this playlist here. It's some teams that we want to see. Some international teams that really sort of showcase themselves in the World Cup. They get the chance to line up again. And look, there's a couple of different tournaments going on at once. So it might be worth you explaining to everyone how that works.
Yeah, a little bit weird. We're kind of going through this, as you guys are as well, with the Pacific Cup involving the Australia, New Zealand and Samoan teams. And then we also have the Pacific Bowl, which involves Cook Islands, Fiji and Papua New Guinea. So 6 teams split into 2 very different groups based on, I would say, their ability to an extent. I think maybe PNG rules that second group, but you know we do love our PNG teams here. On the
I mean, Fiji has gone deep previously, like 2017, I think it was World Cup, or what year was that?
Well, they were definitely good in 2008 as well with Jared Hayne and things like that. So
they've done it before, right? I mean, I'm looking at this and like for me, it's the Pacific Bowl that's more interesting. So Pacific Cup is your top tier, like tier 1 nations. Pacific Bowl, tier 2. For me, they're tier 1 in entertainment. So let's look at that Pacific Bowl first. Cook Islands, Fiji, PNG. I just think they're a bunch of tough sides. They're sides that run it straight. They're sides that hit hard. They're going to be sides that put on a show in this tournament. And look, they're must-watch games for me. I know about Australia. You know, I know about New Zealand. Samoa's pretty juicy. We'll get to them next. But like in that group, are you saying PNG is a surefire winner for you?
Yeah, I've got them running roughshod over Fiji and the Cook Islands. I think especially with the Cook Islands, they may struggle to get some top-level talent there. I know guys like Kale Iro play for the Cook Islands as well. He should slot in at fullback there, but it's a matter of who they can get to represent them. And Fiji, going to have electric outside backs, we know that, but I think they may struggle in the halves and hooker positions.
It's interesting you talk about Kale Iro too, because I feel like he's a guy who should have been in first grade by now.
Yeah, where's he been?
And a tournament like this is potentially a chance for him to show out. You know, you come into a game against PNG and you're lining up against Olam or someone like that, whether he's at centre or fullback or wherever they play him. But yeah, he could be one of those guys, and that's one of the best things about these tournaments. They're those guys that they come into it in reserve grade and they come out of it with a first grade contract.
Yeah, we've even seen some PNG players this year step it up a bit. I think Coates played a lot of Origin this year. I mean, if he doesn't get selected for Australia, potentially could slot in for PNG. And then Lachlan Lamb's actually killing it over in the Super League.
Yeah.
Dan Russell has emerged as a good player.
Great work rate.
St. George. And even though they're not their prototypical Papua New Guinean players, but they have played some solid first grade this year.
I mean, even the hooker got poached over in the Super League. So
Ipape.
That's my point. Like he's been sort of barnstorming. So they're going to bring some form into this tournament. Let's have a look at some of the fixtures here, because like we're going through this first time with you. It's our first reaction. Let us know in the comments what you're thinking about these matchups, who you think's going to win. So for the Cup, you've got Australia v Samoa opening things up, and that is a juicy grand final rematch.
Yeah, the World Cup final rematch, and you'd have to think that they were the story of the last World Cup. Samoa, they got absolutely hammered by England in the first game, and we covered it at length. Please go watch those videos, guys, if you want to catch up on that World Cup. But yeah, we covered it at length, and they came back and they beat England to make the final as well. So I think they won't take Australia as lightly as maybe some other teams might, just because I think Australia may have a few guys out for this game. It's going to be 2 weeks after the regular season. I think some guys will want some time off. I think Samoa, they always love playing for their country, so I consider them to be pretty much full strength, barring any time off for some of their players.
I agree with you. Like, a lot of those Australia players are going to be playing deep into the finals. You look at the Melbourne team; they're going well. Penrith are obviously Penrith. Souths might not play finals, so Latrell should be fit. Selfishly, I'd rather he play for Australia than play finals footy.
Yes. I'd like him to play Origin for once. I think that'd be good. But
but no, look, that'll be good. And then like Samoa's side of things, I mean, like Luai, he'll be playing deep into the finals. He doesn't really seem to get injuries. He's pretty resilient.
The one thing I would say is that Penrith are definitely going to be affected on the Samoa front. I think guys like Stephen Crichton, Brian Toto, Jerome Luai, Spencer Leniu, like they're all Samoan players.
True, but Stephen Crichton will get next year's final series off at the Dogs. So.
Yeah, so he's not going particularly to a place of good fortune, is he?
They're building. But you got to take the piss out of them.
They made some weird signings. They made Stephen Crichton, but then they signed Jamin Salmon, Blake Taff, and Liam Knight, and it just kind of...
We are steering off the track.
Yes, we are.
Week 1, Pacific Championship. So you got the Cup, you got Australia versus Samoa, then we have Australia versus New Zealand in the women's. We'll go into the women's separately. We've got PNG via the Cook Islands in week 1 as well, so October 14th and 15th there. For PNG and Cook Islands, I don't know, the Cook Islands had some pretty good performances in that last World Cup. I felt like there was a little bit of class missing in maybe some of those key skill positions. Yeah. Where, you look at Fiji, they got Coruscant, right? And if Kickout was doing a lot of playmaking for them. They got some guys who have some experience. For the Cook Islands, they had a lot of power in the forwards. They had some guys who were doing some damage out wide, but probably just lacking that bit of experience in the spine.
Yeah, I think some of the guys that you talk about, like Davey Mawali, played pretty well for them at the World Cup. Yeah,
he was great.
He was phenomenal. It all comes down to who their halves are going to be. I find that a lot with a lot of Pacific Nations teams. Not saying that they don't produce, have a halves factory out there in the Pacific Islands, but it tends to be not of the most elite quality, and they tend to shove players who have played maybe a bit of fullback, a bit of centre, and they shove them into the halves. So, I think for Samoa and teams like that as well, same thing. So Cook Islands are going to struggle in that regard. They Brad Takarangi there at one point. So
I mean, he's not bad. No, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's the hardest part to develop. Like, if you're going to play half, you have to play footy for 20 plus years, right? Whereas as a back rower, your role's a bit more simple. On the wing, I'm a forward myself, so I like to keep it simple. But
like you said, Fiji just have some really quality players in some quality positions.
Well, let's go to week 2, right? Because then we got New Zealand versus Samoa. That's one that's interesting. So if we look at the New Zealand team, does Sean Johnson usurp either Jerome Hughes or Dylan Brown? Like we can talk a lot about this selection-wise.
He has just come from nowhere this year, hasn't he? And
he's that guy.
Re-established himself as he's never. First of all, he's never won a Dally M. He won a Golden Boot, but that was playing for New Zealand as well. I'm telling you, man. Like if he gets selected in that New Zealand side, I will not be surprised whatsoever.
Okay, so how are you doing it then? Because I don't know. Like I think Jerome Hughes has been a more consistent player for longer than Dylan Brown. He's had a better year this year than Dylan Brown. But Sean Johnson is a 7, right? You look who Sean Johnson's playing with the Warriors. He's playing next to guys like Metcalf, Tamari Mutton. They're in that same role as Dylan Brown. Dylan Brown's a massive upgrade on those guys. He's one of the best ball running 6s in the game. Doesn't do a lot of kicking. You could consider Jerome Hughes to fullback because he has played a lot of fullback, but it means Manu to centre.
Joey.
And he's great.
Joey's just so good for New Zealand during that World Cup.
Too many choices.
At fullback, he was so good.
Does Dylan Brown go to centre?
Well, you got Chance Nickel-Klokstad as well, who's also had a good season for the Warriors. The Warriors have been outstanding this year.
I think he's been great. He's not in the league with those other guys though. I'm thinking right now. I'm starting to think maybe Dylan Brown goes to centre. Like, think about what he does on the field, right? Like you've got his kicking game isn't elite for a half, but as a centre, he's an elite playmaker and kicker at that spot. He'll be great in defence, runs a good line, hits hard.
Yeah, but I also agree with you. But I also think that this New Zealand side has had some guys that have had outstanding years, maybe career years, even like DWZ as well on the right wing.
Oh, you're picking him.
Has also had probably the best year of his career. So they're going to be a dangerous team. Yeah. I would probably... Again, I had my money on them to win the World Cup at the very start of it. I would not be surprised if they come out and win a tournament like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's Sean Johnson, right? Like they're probably going to pick a bit based on the final series as well. Like, does Sean Johnson step up in that final series, or is it a regular season run that he's put on? We know who Jerome Hughes is, and look, Dylan Brown's coming off a very rough season. Yeah,
it's not been great for him at Parramatta, but I think getting him some valuable reps in that 6 jersey, because he's going to be the 6 there for a long period of time, rather than putting in someone like Foran or... like I said, moving Jerome Hughes to the 6th spot. He's got to be in and around that.
Foran's in the conversation.
Yeah, Dylan Brown's got to be in and around the team based on talent. I think he either has to come off the bench even, or, like as you said, put him in at centre.
And none of those guys can play hooker. Like, Brandon Smith is probably the one that would make way if any of them could play hooker. But he'll probably keep that spot. And let's go to the other game that week too. So we're looking at week 2, October 21, 22. Fiji v Cook Islands. Now, I'm thinking about Fiji right now and thinking Coruscant had a bit of an in and out sort of year. Like, he's been in good form lately. I don't know if, I mean, he's the captain of the Tigers. I don't know if he carries any sort of niggle into the offseason. He may not play. Kickout missed most of this year.
Yeah.
As well. So is there a niggling thing that they need to sort out there surgery-wise? Like, there's a very real chance that Fiji could come into this tournament a bit half-baked on the star front. And I don't think, like, when we look at the Papua New Guinea team, for example, they don't have those elite superstar NRL players, but I think their average player is better than Fiji and the Cook Islands.
They work harder, is what I would say as well. I think when you watch Papua New Guinea, they have more heart than... they're not saying that...
No, I agree with you. Like, they have more heart than anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's not a country in the world that is more hyped to be playing in their jersey.
Well, you'd probably argue that rugby league's their national sport. So
it is.
Yeah,
officially,
that's what I'm saying.
That's why they get in games.
Yeah. It's what soccer is to Brazilians or what cricket is to Indians. Yeah.
Actually, let's throw in here too. Fiji v Cook Islands, that's played in Port Moresby. Quite
Imagine
a few
the
other
crowd.
games are as well. Like,
are we going?
But
we're gonna go.
I'd love to go. A home PNG crowd though for a PNG game. You know what? I'd hate to take a ticket away from someone who's local and hasn't seen them play locally recently. So but that would be crazy. I mean, I think on that alone, they're probably gonna get over the top. Oh,
okay. So we'll save the Port Moresby trip and then we'll go to Vegas instead.
It's a lot to talk about Vegas. Yeah, we could go to Vegas. Maybe we get there. Week 3, Australia v New Zealand, right? So everyone's going to talk about Australia v New Zealand. I'm a bit more interested in the other games personally. I mean, Australia v New Zealand,
always a good match.
Yeah. Like, I'm keen to see how they select the team, Australia, because sometimes they go a bit safe, and then teams like New Zealand outpassion you on the day. So
I expect them to tell you the truth. I think DCE plays halfback because I think
good lately.
Yeah, it could be the last time he plays 7 for Australia as well, and I think
that's a well-deserved
some interesting picks are going to get made. I think maybe even Matt Burton could play 6. And the Dogs haven't had the best season, but I just don't think that there's any 6 that's really going to play for Australia in a competition 2 weeks after the finals. I think Munster plays, to tell you the truth. I think he'd have a nice off-season. He's got a new kid now as well. He's got another kid on the way.
He actually makes a really good point, that'll be interesting to see if there are players pulling out of this tournament. Because obviously Munster is that guy. DC and Munster have a great combo as well. They could pick, like, Queensland have picked a guy like Dearden before. He's done the job. Yeah. I think he could be around the roster.
Well, there's guys like Cody Walker had a pretty good season. It's sort of fading a little bit now. Nico Hines is probably the other guy that I'd select. Maybe in that 6th role. He was robbed of any representative football this year, any truly meaningful representative football. And if the Sharks kick on towards the back end of the year, which they have the last couple of weeks, but if they kick on towards the back of the year, I think you could put him in 6 and see how he goes.
I'm going to throw it at you. 4 halves for Australia. Who are they for you?
Hines, DCE, Matt Burton, and I would go with Dearden, to tell you the truth.
Is Burton there because he can play centre?
Yeah.
Or is he there? Yeah, okay, yeah. Because I would pick him as a centre. I personally don't have him above a lot of those guys as a half.
I'm not saying that Burton deserves to be picked, but...
Oh, no, he does at centre.
You love him at centre, don't you?
I think he's a weapon at centre. I'm a big fan of, think about Jamie Lyon back in the day. I'm a big fan of that creative centre that takes a bit of pressure off the main playmakers. And if you got a guy like Hines...
Gaznia was the guy.
But Hines, right, he is so creative, but he's not that kicking game kind of guy, right? He's not... He just let him sort of run around and create plays, and maybe Matt Burton can take a bit of the kicking pressure off DC. I think that's the optimal sort of setup. I think the Blues were silly not to do that this year as well.
Yeah, definitely. What are the games for week 3?
So that was Australia v New Zealand, and then we have the game of the tournament, week 3. Well, game of the tournament until the final, of course. We've got PNG versus Fiji, Santos Stadium, Port Moresby. That's going to go off.
Yeah.
That's going to go off. I reckon, like, if the capacity of that stadium is 40,000, there'll be 80,000 people there.
Well, I guess the one thing I'm most excited about is that we're going to see professional international football in PNG. And that's one thing that, it hasn't happened for quite a long period of time on a large scale. They play quite a lot of games PNG, but not a lot of them get a bit of notoriety. And I think having a specific competition for it is awesome.
Yeah. No.
Specific Pacific.
All right, so let's go through these then, because week 4 is just the finals, right? So I'm going to skip over that. We've got the Pacific Cup final on, I think it's the Saturday, and the Pacific Bowl on the Sunday. Hamilton in New Zealand is hosting the Pacific Cup, and the bowl's going to be in Port Moresby again. So, let's talk through it, because it is really just a 3-team setup, a kill, F, marry kind of selection, right? So
right, yeah.
Who's your kill?
Who am I killing?
Yeah.
In
who's
group,
not making the final?
In Group 1, I'm killing Samoa. I just don't think they're going to have the players available for it. I think Penrith they're looking good to make the grand final again. If they go deep into the finals, I'd struggle to see how their players will back up. Is Marry the good one, or is F the kill one?
F makes the grand final, but Marry take home.
All right, I'm going to F Australia.
Ooh, okay.
And I think New Zealand actually take it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I like the setup of their team. A lot of those guys who play for the Warriors, and they've had some very good years this year.
Yep.
Tohu Harris, SJ, DWZ, as we spoke about.
Yep.
I think they can go all the way and win it. With Australia's, again, having a few players out. Not that I want these players to be out. I just expect them to take some time off.
No, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. There's a part of me, I mean, it's such an isolated tournament, right? Like, you're only playing those 3 games, so you don't have a lot of time. There's not a lot of wiggle room. Like, if we go back to week 1, Australia v Samoa to kick things off.
Could be 66-0 again for Samoa to start a tournament.
Look, I can't make this as a prediction. I need some more time. I need to look at the rosters.
Oh.
But part of me is saying that Australia won't make the final.
Wow.
I genuinely think, I'm just looking at the Australia team in my head, and I'm just sort of thinking, like, maybe these guys will be a bit burnt out from the season they've had. Maybe, like you're saying, we won't get some of those top line talents from Australia, whereas New Zealand will turn up for it. I think Samoa turns up for it. They love it. They love it. Like, so I think maybe Samoa out. Look, it's hard to say after the way they played for against England first game. But I think maybe they learned from that, and Samoa out passions Australia in that first game. Think about when New Zealand weren't that strong, but they had that forward pack led by Muddy Tapau like 10 years ago, and they just ran over Australia to win a game. It could be that kind of game. So I'm going to say Australia doesn't make it. This is very preliminary. I reserve the right to change it. Australia doesn't make it. I think New Zealand's too classy. New Zealand beats Samoa in the final. So similar prediction to yours, but Australia not making it would be...
Different team making the final.
I might put some money on that, because that's going to pay a lot.
Look, Australia have always said that they could almost win a tournament with their B team. So let's see if it's possible.
Have they come out and said that?
Oh, it's just a feeling that I get. Tell you the truth.
I just don't... Some of the selections we were talking about there, I just reckon maybe they get outclassed. And,
yeah, potentially.
And look, the other tournament there, we've gone the Cup, we've got the Bowl. I'm getting stuck with all these pieces of cutlery. Keep thinking of the Pacific Fork.
Yeah.
I'm going to be Pacific Forked trying to remember these. But no, look, for the Bowl.
Say one more time.
Kill F, marry.
For the Bowl.
I'm just trying to put this video into a nice little bowl, serve it up.
It's like soup. You drinking the soup?
Just tell me who's in the soup.
We got PNG, Fiji, and Cook Islands.
Yep.
I think Cook Islands are the team that don't make it through to the final.
I'm going to agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, just little down on class, and I think guys like Kale Iro and David Miley have a standout if they play as well. But I think PNG takes it out in the final as well, quite comfortably.
Yep.
Against Fiji. I mean, I think they had a pretty close game at the World Cup as well, but PNG ultimately will take it out at home.
I agree. Home ground. If it was in Fiji, I might be thinking about it. But Papua New Guinea, with the passion of their fans, they're just some of the best fans going around.
And then it'll be mental. Yeah. They'll go mental.
It'll be crazy, yeah. But I think it's going to be a very close game. In fact, I'm going to call it right now. I think they're trailing till the 63rd minute. And they score a try to get ahead, and then maybe score another one to sort of make it 2 scores.
Solidify the win.
Yeah, I think Fiji will really turn up for this tournament, but Papua New Guinea are too good. Anyway, that's our first look at the Pacific Bowl, the Pacific Cup. We'll also go through the women's game shortly as well. There's is it 5 games across 2 weeks?
5 games across 2 weeks with 7 teams competing. So we'll get that one covered as well. Yeah,
so we want to see those team lists first, because we don't have as much to go on, to be honest, for form. So if we can check that out, we can kind of look at what they've been doing in the NRLW. But that's our look. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to win this tournament, and if you think Miles is right, I'm right, or we're both wrong. See you on the next one.